I saved my son from having a toxic father. I got pregnant at 19 by a guy I'd been with for 2 years. He was thrilled when we found out it was a boy. Started talking immediately about teaching him to hunt, play football, work on cars together. Bought a tiny camo onesie before we even left the ultrasound appointment. He'd tell everyone, "I'm raising a man's man." None of that soft stuff. He had this whole fantasy of the son he was going to have. Then Levi was born, and he cried. A lot. All babies cry, but my boyfriend took it personally. He'd stand over the crib with his arms crossed, looking frustrated, like Levi was failing some test. He'd say things like, he needs to toughen up, about a 3-week-old. When I'd pick Levi up to comfort him, he'd shake his head like I was doing it wrong, like I was making our son weak. When Levi was 4 months old, he told me we shouldn't respond every time he cries because boys need to learn to self-soothe. I told him that's not how babies work. He said I was going to turn our son into a mama's boy. By the time Levi was 2, the cracks were everywhere. Levi was gentle, loved books and drawing and stuffed animals. He'd cry when other kids were rough at daycare. He wanted to help me cook instead of watching sports with his dad. And my boyfriend looked at him like he was defective. I watched him try to force a basketball into Levi's hands when Levi wanted to color. Watched him get visibly annoyed when Levi wanted a butterfly painted on his face at a fair. He took him to a monster truck show, and Levi cried because the noise scared him, and my boyfriend barely spoke to him the rest of the day. The breaking point was Levi's 3rd birthday. I threw him a dinosaur party because he was obsessed with dinosaurs. His dad showed up with a football and insisted on playing catch in the yard instead of doing cake. Levi didn't want to. Started crying. And my boyfriend said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I can't believe this is my kid." Just stood there holding the football looking disgusted while our 3-year-old sobbed. My mom had to take Levi inside. I ended the party early. That night, I told him we were done. He barely fought it. I asked if he wanted to set up custody and he said, "I don't know what to do with a kid like that. A kid like that." Like Levi was a problem to be solved instead of a person to love. I told him he could sign away his rights if he wanted. He signed 3 days later. Didn't even ask to say goodbye to Levi. I never heard from him again. 10 years passed. Levi grew into the kindest, most creative, most emotionally intelligent kid I've ever known. He's in advanced art classes, writes poetry, volunteers at an animal shelter every weekend, cries during sad movies and isn't ashamed of it. Has 2 best friends who've been with him since kindergarten. Bakes with me every Sunday. Talks about his feelings like it's the most natural thing in the world. He's confident in exactly who he is, and I'm so proud of him I could burst. Last month, I ran into someone from my old neighborhood who follows my ex on social media. She mentioned he has 2 daughters now and posts about them constantly. So that night, I looked him up. His entire page was girl dad content. Pictures of him doing his daughter's hair with captions like, "Real men raise strong women," and "Being a girl dad changed me," and "My daughters taught me what love really means." Post after post about ballet recitals, tea parties, painting nails. There was one photo of him crying at his daughter's dance recital with the caption, "Didn't know I could love like this until I had my girls." I stared at that post for a long time, and then it hit me. If I hadn't let him go, Levi would have spent 13 years trying to be someone else, trying to like sports he hated, hide the things that made him happy, shove down every feeling to avoid that look of disappointment. He would have spent his whole childhood wondering what was wrong with him, why his own father couldn't love him, why being sensitive and kind and creative made him a failure in his dad's eyes.